Hello, my name is Sanjit Verma, and I'm here to present my BE project, which has the objective of making a machine learning model for detecting mental health illnesses on a country-wise basis. My group members are Ruchika Shukla and Saloni Chande. So I'll be like basically we'll be talking about what mental health is and what illnesses we are talking about in this particular context and scenario. So mental health is the foundation for emotions, thinking, communication, learning, resilience, and self-esteem. It is also key to relationships, personal and emotional well-being, and contributing to community or society. People who have a mental health illness do not actually want to talk about it as seen largely. But mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. It is a medical condition just like heart disease or diabetes. And mental health conditions are treatable. We are continually expanding our understanding of how the human brain works, and the treatments are available to help people successfully manage health conditions related to brain or disorders. So it does not discriminate, or it does not happen to a target group. It can affect anyone regardless of your age, gender, geography, income, social status, race, ethnicity, religion, spirituality, sexual orientation, etc. While mental illness can occur at any age, three-fourths of any mental health illnesses can be seen to begin at the age of 24. Anxiety is more. So I'll then be talking more about anxiety and depression particularly, because these are the illnesses that our project is kind of built upon. So we've looked at how a citizen in a particular country can be seen to have issues with anxiety and depression. This was a abstract about what we why we are pushing this agenda behind our project, and why we thought it was important to talk about this. And this is our poster. Now we move on to our actual implementation, and what we will be kind of uh, doing before getting into the model of our project. So basically, we've used, for the data set, we have used happiness World Happiness Report. We can see it on the screen right now. Like it, we've done it for 5 years: 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 respectively. So what happens here is, we for each country there are a certain set of parameters and columns that lead to that amalgamate to give us a happiness score related to how a person feels in that particular country, averaged out. So we've chosen the most important parameters by seeing the strongest relationships. So we've done that uh, by the use of a lot of plots and a lot of graphical details. So we can see here that there's a kernel density estimate that shows us the value evaluation of happiness score for the 5 years, and the density with which it varies. And we have it for we have it for all the other parameters too. So we see how it is differentiated for different columns and different parameters for the 5 years that we mentioned. So these are the KDE plots. Now, then, to take into consideration how strong these parameters are, we've associated the top 30 countries, the top 30 happiest countries for that matter, and we've seen how these parameters vary for these 30 countries in 2015 to 2019. So here are some scatter plots amalgamated for all the years, to give us a clearer idea about as to how all these parameters lead up to a happiness score, and how these parameters affect the top 30 happiest countries in the world for the past decade or half. So yeah, this is again all the parameters shown separately. Now we have correlation analysis. So we use Seaborn library here. We use Seaborn library for most of the visualizations, and Matplotlib and we basically coded in Python. So as you can see here, we see correlation-based analysis as to figure out the importance of what uh, a parameter can, or how a parameter can affect the happiness rank and happiness score. So here we have all the details and the correlation matrices relating to what I just mentioned. So here is the amalgamation, the final correlation matrix for a particular year, 2015. That is, so that gives us a very clear picture as to how every parameter is related to every other parameter in our data set, and that kind of gives us strong detailed analysis of uh, what our data set is and how authentic or veracious it is in the context of giving us letting us identify what a citizen feels about his or her country or the state of living. So this is the correlation matrix for 2016. I think we've done it for all the years. So these visualizations gave us a clear idea as to what is to be taken into consideration and how important these parameters are to authentically or organically give us a very decisive analysis of happiness score, so as to we have lesser errors in our final model making process. So this is what we can kind of infer. All the numbers kind of refer to the relations between them. And we've done multiple linear regression for all of these things. So we finally come to how India stands in relation to the top 10 countries in the world. And this is a graphical representation of all the relations associated with India with respect to the top 10 countries in the Happiness World Health Organization report. So we can see it for freedom, generosity, family support, etc. Now we've to manipulate or to kind of formulate a very we've kind of inferred how important which parameters are the most important as to finding out a happiness score. So we get data using we manipulate and get data using pandas, the pandas library module, and then we are kind of describing or seeing relations between all of these things, and we are coming up to the most important parameters so that we could have a symmetrical kind of input modeling for all the 5 years. So that is what we've done here. We've eliminated null values, uh, and we've looked at how many null values we have for each year and each column. And that gives us a very clear data set, amalgamation of a very clear data set with reasonable values and with same parameters for each year. We split the data for testing and validation. And firstly, we do it for the input and output. So we take all the input parameters, the column for all input parameters to X, and then we associate the happiness score to Y. And then we divide the entire data set into testing and training. So we do it by using train test split.
So initially we have used gradient boosting regressor as a final model that we'll be proceeding with for making predictions on the happiness score. So according to the happiness score, we'll be able to determine whether a particular country has, based on a happiness score of that country, whether that score determines anxiety or depression. So gradient boosting regressor is basically an ensemble of decision trees. So it is similar to AdaBoost, but unlike to decision trees, we will use an ensemble of decision trees to predict the happiness score. So we have used gradient boosting regressor for training our data set. Gradient boosting regressor is similar to AdaBoost. Similarly in AdaBoost, we use an ensemble of decision trees for predicting the values. But however, unlike AdaBoost, the gradient boost trees have a depth larger than 1. So gradient Moreover, gradient boosting is used with number of leaves between 8 to 32. So here we have used gradient boosting regressor for training our data set. As Sanjit mentioned earlier, we divided the data set into 80% training and 20% testing. So the various features of this gradient boosting regressor. So for an initial stage, we have used random values for these features. So we have chosen random state 1. The loss feature, we have used Hubble for that. So it is to be optimized later, and basically it refers to the least squares regression here. So Hubble is a combination of two loss functions, the LAD, which is the least absolute deviation, and the least squares loss function. Later, the max depth feature, we have chosen a random value like 5. For max features, we have chosen a value of 3. Now, n estimator is the number of boosting stages that have to be performed. So, gradient boosting is fairly robust. For overfitting a large number of usually results in better performance. Later, we have chosen a random value of 6 and 4 for minimum sample split and minimum samples leave. Moving on to the next part. So here we have used our own equation for finding out the error. So this basically represents the error of all the columns collectively. So as we can see, we have used all of the columns over here, and that collective error came out to be about 0.92. Later, we have used feature importance. Feature importance is an attribute of the gradient boosting regressor model. So feature importance usually tells which of the particular columns in the data set have highest weightage in calculating the prediction. So as we can see, we have included all of the columns in the feature importance. So here we can see that health life expectancy has the maximum importance, which is about 0.38, and subsequently we have GDP per capita, social support, freedom to make life choices, perceptions of corruption, and generosity. So according to this feature importance, we have designed an equation for calculating, for predicting the happiness score. So here we can see that health life expectancy has the maximum weightage in calculating the prediction for the happiness score. So health life expectancy will have the maximum weightage in that particular equation, and so on, as we can see. So here we have created sliders for a visual representation to visualize how each parameter is involved in the calculation of the predicted score. We have used sliders. So here we can change the value of GDP per capita, and the predicted value will change. But as I explained earlier, healthy life expectancy has the highest weightage in the expression that we have created for calculating the happiness score. So the changes in healthy life expectancy will affect the predicted value a lot. So moving on to feature optimization, the model that I earlier explained was with random values. So we have to optimize each feature and find out the best value for each feature. So we have done this using feature optimization, and we have chose the best value for each of these features. So these are the plots for their respective features. And finally, when we use the results, test results to evaluate our model, this is the result that we are getting. So after this, Saloni will be giving us an insight as to how mental health is perceived amongst tech associates.
As we are all engineers and most of us are now going to be joining the corporate tech world, We were just curious as to how mental well-being is perceived amongst tech associates. The cutthroat competition in today's corporate sector is unparalleled. 12 to 14-hour work shifts, pressurizing deadlines, neck-breaking workload, clashing personalities of team members, lack of appreciation, harassment, tough boss has been contributing to the increasing stress and consequently decreasing emotional well-being of the workforce. 42.5% of the employees in the private sector in India suffer from depression or some form of anxiety disorder, according to ET contributors. That's 1 out of 2 employees whose productivity is taking a serious hit. Good mental health enables us to thrive. As individuals, we understand this, and now, as business leaders too, the increasingly acknowledging the importance of well-being in the workplace. Research studies provide strong evidence that companies with high levels of mental health awareness are more successful. According to a research by University of Warwick, addressing well-being at work increases the productivity up to 12%. And as reported in the government's Mental Health for Employers in 2017 magazine, businesses that invest in health interventions report a high return for each pound spent. Raising mental health awareness at work and the benefits. Internationally, the impact of mental health awareness raising initiatives in the workplace is already proving overwhelmingly positive. A 2017 Deloitte study evidenced approaches across Germany, Canada, Australia, France, Belgium, and Sweden, which are empowering employers to implement interventions. A vast majority of the employees do not reach out to the workplace counselors due to fear of the stigma attached to mental health concerns, consequences on their profession, questions raised on their capability to work, etc. A lot can be done to prevent and cure mental health concerns. Some employees prefer to interact with a psychologist on the outside of the workplace or over the phone or chat with them where they can get to keep their identity anonymous. Therefore, a need of the hour for corporates to implement the mental health awareness programs to promote overall well-being of their people. We use the OSMI Mental Health in Tech Survey 2016 to look at how mental health is perceived amongst tech associates, and these are the insights that we obtained. 41% of the respondents confirmed that they have had a moment of mental health disorder, while more than half of the respondents said that they had a mental health in the past. Are organizations treating mental health appropriately? From the midpoints in review, I would say indeed, yet not however much it is important. The greater part of respondents have a mental health coverage given, yet not the assets of discovering more data about this, implying that most organizations address mental health yet do not involve themselves effectively in it. Over 70% of respondents couldn't say whether their anonymity would be ensured on account of conversing with a counselor who is already a part of the organization. Ultimately, most respondents couldn't say whether their organization is viewing mental health issues as appropriately as actual health. Are companies taking mental health seriously? So around 55.7% of the companies provide mental health coverage, and 73.6% of the companies do not provide anonymity when it comes to mental health and counseling. 35% of the companies actually provide mental health medical leaves. Would mental health have consequences on my career? Most people think that having a mental health disorder would hurt on their career, but more than half of the respondents didn't either observe or experience a bad response to mental health around them. These questions still show a bias about mental health is actually existing in the corporate world. Discussing mental health at work. So 51% of the respondents think that there are negative consequences of discussing mental health problems with their employer. And 42% of the respondents believe that their co-workers will view them badly after confessing to a mental health disorder. 51% of the respondents say that they won't feel relaxed after talking about their mental health disorders with their co-workers. Being open about mental health with friends and family. 63% of the respondents are open or somewhat open about talking about mental health issues with their friends or family. Almost 20% of the respondents said that they are not comfortable talking about mental health with their close ones, while the rest remain neutral. If you are a manager at work, here are some common signs that can surface in colleagues who are struggling with their mental health. They may exhibit physical symptoms such as tiredness due to disrupted sleep or persistent headaches. They may be making more mistakes than normal, productivity drops off, and they are having trouble with decision making. They may become more irritable or very annoyed, and they can make a reference to increased alcohol consumption. Absence may increase, or alternatively, they start to work much longer hours and starting early or staying late. In conclusion, I would like to say that we have realized a system that can visualize and explore data on the basis of different diseases like depression and anxiety for a citizen living in one of the 158 countries around the globe as covered in the World Happiness Report. We have also obtained the most authentic parameters associated with the actualization of happiness score for different countries and their parameters like GDP per capita, family support, corruption, life expectancy, etc. This project also helps us trace how mental health is perceived amongst the tech associates. We have successfully built a machine learning model using the gradient boosting regressor with an accuracy of 81%. Thank you.